All right, we are live. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the Deconversion Hangout, the support live stream for those leaving their faith, where we also need to talk about deconversion issues as well and things that people struggle with. So thanks for everybody stopping by. This is a little bit more monitored live stream. You have to be a subscriber to get into the chat in the first place. You also, my mods are also kind of instructed to be a little bit stronger with the theists that do get in. We're not here to be preached at. We're here to talk about our deconversion and talk about deconversion issues. So, but before we get into all that, let's see who is here. Okay, we have got the Cranky Elder God showed up first. And then Paul is here. Rimmer is here. Anne is here. And Anne is Anne is warning me about the ice storm that's supposed to happen up in my neck of the woods of Michigan. So, but yeah, oh, I only work tonight, so hopefully it won't affect me that much. And I don't go out much on the weekends anyway. So unless things are happening in other parts of my life. So, yeah, it's, the weather. What can you do in spring anyway? Nebraska. Yeah, I remember that about Nebraska and the plain states, that it could be really high temperature one day and low another. So, yep. And Paul Wolf is here. Paul is here. Katie's here. Anne Marie's here. All right. Tonight, I want to talk, I guess, about how people respond to people deconverting. And this has been, I don't know if Bren will show up, but Bren sent me a video he did dealing with an issue of somebody who had been for 3 years, a YouTube Christian guy. I think it's Little Don. And he recently deconverted and just doesn't believe that the Christian message is even true. And he gave us 4 reasons. And, this other video content creator responded to those 4 reasons, and an apologist responded to those 4 reasons why he left the faith. And I'm always interested. This is a part of deconversion, of how Christians, people still in the faith, respond to it. Has always fascinated me, because with me, it was the few people close to my life responded with, I can't believe somebody who's this long in the faith would leave it. I don't know. My response to that was, well, I had a lot of reasons to be emotionally attached to my faith. The intellectual reasons probably died a little bit after seminary, but I just took a long time to realize it. I kept trying to make it work. But in this particular case, you have a young man who becomes a Christian for very pragmatic reasons. And then when he begins to study the Bible, he begins to look at different brands of Christianity and all that stuff. He begins to have a lot more questions the more he goes on. And about 3 years later, he's like, I'm done with it. There's no truth to it. And then a whole bunch of people are like, couldn't believe that happened. Okay, it's like, they began to go, well, he's a baby Christian. Like, for 3 years, you guys are giving this guy props for his valuable Christian insights and all this other stuff. And then you turn right around and talk about how he's a baby Christian. He really doesn't understand Christianity that well. That's why he left. Maybe he wasn't really saved. It's always the classic, you didn't have the right Christianity, you weren't really saved kind of thing. And that's how this tends to go with people. And unfortunately, I haven't gotten completely through Bren's video, because I'm like, every time I'm listening to it, I stop and I get a little angry about it, because every time there's a misinterpretation of why people deconvert, kind of gets my ire. And there's always the excuses of why we can't treat those reasons seriously. So, hey, Fred, you are late. Earl's allowed to be a fashionably late. I'm not sure about you. So, not yet. I'll always take people who are fashionably late. What the time frame on that is relative to what I think. But anyway, I was like, in this particular case, one of the reasons that the guy left the faith is he's reading John 15 or 14, and it says, "Hey, greater works will you do because I do unto the Father." And it's like, he's like, I don't see people raising people from the dead. I don't see the miracles happening. I don't see any of this going on. So there's no truth to this passage. Egalitarianism. Okay. All right. You used a big word. Maybe I'll let it go. It's a new thing for you, Freddie. Use big words. But one of the problems I had with that passage is, as a Pentecostal, I could probably say, but greater works still do happen in certain parts of the church. But the more I analyzed the miracles that were claimed, the more I realized that they just weren't happening. That was all backwards. That there wasn't any miracles happening, and what people were counting as miracles were just stories of miracles, but no actual evidence. And the exegetics on that is, well, he's not talking about actual miracles like raising the dead and stuff like that. He's talking about, the extent of how the ministry is going to spread. And it's like, you have an omnipotent, omnipresent God who could do ministry anywhere in any part of the world instantaneously. Why would he need human beings to do that? Is my first objection. But then it's like, but every time the book of John uses the word works, it's usually in reference to a miracle. When the man born blind in chapter 9 is healed, the discussion afterwards is, Jesus says, I do one work and you all marvel. Okay. Greater works you will see. Well, he's talking about his bloody miracles. And miracles become an issue in deconversion because when you don't see any, and there's a bunch of them promised by the Bible, that's kind of a disconnect. Okay, so wow, you guys are getting the Australian thing, the land down under. I do want to visit Australia someday, if only to see Fred, maybe. No, probably other things, but yeah. Actually asked God to keep his followers united. That didn't really work out, did it? No, it didn't. And that's the other thing. I mean, it's the problem that people, when they see people deconverting over biblical issues, what the Bible says this and this doesn't happen, is the excuses are, well, you're just reading it wrong. Or what it really means is this. And what they do is they take the reality and they impose it on the scripture to make the reality work. Okay. It's really kind of a backwards thing. Well, this is the question that the guy deconverting was asking, is like, if he can heal the one guy, why doesn't he heal them all? God's literally omniscient, omnipresent. He's all powerful. Why do specific miracles in the first place? It's a big deconversion issue for a lot of people, is the fact that the Bible promises that the people of God will do a lot of miracles. Now, Pentecostals, for instance, will take that and say, okay, we need to seek how to do that to keep the faith. We're going to be truly of the faith when we see miracles in our midst. But yeah. And then, you turn right around and then you don't see any miracles in the scripture being fulfilled in life. Like, hey, Bren, I'm actually talking a little bit about your video. I've watched about 3/4 of it. I keep stopping it because I get angry. Not at you. I get angry at the people talking that are making the excuses. It's like you're so right in that video. Is they don't really want to understand why people deconvert, because then they would probably they're afraid. They're afraid that if they actually take the objections of why people leave the faith seriously, they'll lose their faith themselves. Um, so yes, I am talking about it. It it's just absolutely, you're dead on, with the fact that these people don't really want to engage why this person deconverted. The couple that's reacting to him and the apologist that's reacting to them are looking for excuses to keep their faith. They're not really analyzing why the person deconverted. They're not taking what that person is saying seriously, because if they take it seriously, they run the danger of deconverting themselves. Okay, and you make a very excellent point on that. I'm going to finish it after I get done with the stream, but I've listened to about 3/4 of it so far, and it's like I'm doing my analysis in my head. I'm sorry, Bren, because I start to think about something and I don't want to miss what you say in your video, and then I stop and I have to think about it, and my autistic self. So, but yes, the video is very well. It's good. In the sense the content hits a very valid point in deconversion, because when you're deconverting, what you would really like is the people that still have the faith to actually take what you're saying seriously and not dismiss it. And it's a very dismissive tactic to not deal with the actual issue. There's a lot of like, so far, the poor guy is like hitting, yeah, I know you do. Okay. That's why your videos tend to be really long. And I get why you do it, and I can appreciate that. But it's every 5-10 minutes, I have to stop it because there's so much stuff to think about. I will give you that. Your videos do give a lot to think about. So, but yeah, it's a deconversion issue to me, because I am absolutely get upset about the fact that people don't want to take you seriously. Yeah, this is kind of what happens. When the reality doesn't line up to what the Bible says, you change what the Bible says. Okay, you reinterpret what the Bible says. And the apologist in Bren's video does a great example of that. Greater works will you do, because I go to my Father. Well, in John, works usually refers to miracles, but all of a sudden it refers to the extent of the Christian church's ministry, not miracles at all. And that's because the church currently, name me a miracle that hasn't been debunked. Name me, do we see people being raised from the dead? Do we see 5,000 people fed? Do we see a bunch of blind people seeing and lame people walking? The real demonstrable miracle stuff. No. Okay. Well, he couldn't have meant miracle then. He had to mean something else. Okay. So reality changes the way what the scripture means. uh, yeah, it doesn't make sense. There's also that in Bren's video too, because they sit there and make excuses of why prayer doesn't work. And I remember when I listened to George Carlin on prayer, because he's like, if God's just going to do what he wants, why the hell bother? Okay, prayer doesn't make any sense. And they try to excuse that away. Well, when it does line up with God's will, then prayer matters. And it's like, no, it doesn't. Okay, he was going to do what he wanted to anyway. I just recently had somebody say, I feel like I'm becoming an atheist because my prayers aren't working. And I'm like, well, that's because prayers never work. Okay, it's if something happens in line with your prayer, you need to check all your other prayers, because there's a pretty good chance that there's a bunch of stuff. So it really was, it's an interesting thought all the time, because this is something that I probably should do more videos on. It's I'm heading that direction anyway, of half video, half live streaming, and doing some other things with it. But it's the issue of what happens when you're deconverting, or you've deconverted, and how people respond to you is a big issue, because most of the time, because people have this emotional attachment to their faith, they're going to dismiss you, okay, in some way, shape, or form. And that's not because of you. It's because they don't want to listen to what you have to say. So I don't think I agree with you. They just want to argue with you, whatever reason you have, because if they actually take the reason that you give and run with it, they may find themselves questioning their faith as well. This is the thing about deconversion that I've learned over the years, is like, you can give really good, valid reasons of why you left the faith. I do it all the time. I literally do videos where I debunk the Bible and show that the Bible is complete garbage, and that's why I shouldn't trust it. And yet people will still, well, you're wrong, you're not interpreting it right, or you weren't really a Christian, so I don't have to trust your interpretation. I'm like, I'm giving you the interpretation that I had when I was a Christian. So I think that's becoming true. And when I watched Bren's video, okay, and I'm, like I say, I'm like 3/4 of the way through, and I'm trudging through it because I get mad. It's not that Bren doesn't bring up valid points. He does a very good job of that. It's just, I get to these points where these people are making excuses for their faith in the guise of debunking this guy's reasons for leaving the faith. What they're really doing is they're shoring up their own belief system, rather than, like the one lady openly admits, well, I really don't look at this too closely because it's like, and I'm like, lady, you're just basically admitting you don't want to look at why people deconvert closely because you're afraid of deconverting. Okay. And you don't want to lose this stuff. So there's that. Hey, Alex. Yeah, I miss George Carlin too. But people ask me what effect he had on my deconversion. Well, if you listen to his stand-up comedy, it's funny, but his whole thing on religion is bullshit. It's like, I can't find a lot of flaws in his reasoning. Okay, I might as well worship the sun or a cranky elder god. At least I can get evidence for their existence. So, yeah, this is the problem, because a lot of biblical interpretation, and I said this as a theologian and as a Christian, like 15 years ago, and I still maintain it now as an atheist. If Christians actually took their Bible seriously for what it says, they'd be in a lot of trouble. We would really call into question whether they were Christians or not. If they try to live up to these precepts, yes, they will fail, or they eventually come up with interpretations of scriptures and passages that allow them to live within that framework, but they come up with what many have termed excusegetics. They come up with excuses as to why that interpretation can't work, because reality doesn't line up with it. So who's really the authority here? Reality or the Bible? Okay, and I learned something in some circles, Pentecostals in particular, they will not accept, okay, well, that may be reality, but the Bible comes first, so we need to mold reality to the Bible. And that usually ends up failing pretty epically. And yeah, it's just, yeah, that's a pretty typical excuse too, Katie. This is the kind of thing that people do in the video too. They're like, well, it's either, yeah, God answers all prayer. It's either yes, no, or wait. It's like, it's always the excuse. Well, if I need something like right now, okay, like it's a crisis moment, telling me no or wait, okay, just isn't really good, satisfying answers, especially from an omnipotent God. So there's that. Okay. Dog answered in a parallel universe, probably. It's a perfectly valid theological theory, by the way, given what I understand about theology now. I have a degree in theology, and I now look at it as mostly a way of talking. I learned a lot of terms to talk to theists. So honestly, I think the cats have never gotten over it since Egypt. They just, so there's that. Hey, Ronald. Through prayer gives a person a feeling of having access to power. It's hard to convince a religious person otherwise. I agree. Even when you look at prayer logically, that's not why people believe in prayer. If you listen to their reasons why they believe in prayer, it's very much power over circumstances. It makes them feel like they have power over circumstances. And one of the things I had to get over deconverting is like, that's not real power over circumstances. I got to find stuff that really helps me deal with my circumstances. And that's something that's really hard to grasp when you're deconverting at times. It's like, okay, what really works? Okay, what really does give me power? And is there certain circumstances that I will never have power over? Accepting that, I think it's people who want to really believe in prayer, I think just don't want to accept there are certain things that can't change. And so they create something in their mind where they can still change it. And I think that's one of the real problematics of prayer is it gives you this false hope that some things that aren't changeable, you can change. So yes, we're sick and commanded to be well. One of my favorite quotes. I don't know yet. What I want to know, Brent, could you tell me who the apologist is in that video that the couple is reacting to? Because I would like to react to him. Okay, I don't know how long his video is, but I couldn't find him. If you could tell me that, but your analysis is pretty damn good. I would just leave it up. It's an hour-long dive, but you hit the nails on the head so far, so it's been pretty good. I'll link your video in my description here so that people can watch it if they want to. But I think you're making a very valid point that a lot of us complain about that are deconverting, is that people don't take it seriously. And that's the real issue, because the guy you're talking about came to Jesus for practical reasons. And then when the practical side of Christianity didn't bone up to its promises, he leaves. Perfectly reasonable, perfectly understandable. Okay, so that's that. So, but yeah, I'll after I'm done with the stream, I'll link that video in the description if you guys want to watch what I'm talking about. But Bren does a pretty good look at this situation so far. I haven't quite finished the video, but I can see where Bren's going, and I like his thoughts. But because he brings up something that pisses me off, is the dismissiveness of Christians about deconversion. Really just irritates me. So, yeah, that's the real problem with the God's will thing. So, yes, PTSD people have the same problem. Hey, Dave, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would appreciate that, Bren. I appreciate your video too, because it got my thoughts rolling. Because I'm thinking of now doing a series of videos on the excuses, the why Christians don't actually want to deal with deconversion. But you've inspired me a little bit, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. Even when you grow up, yeah. You're fashionably late as always, Earl. You're a Southern belle, and you can always be late. So, so it's always. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I got one more night, and then mine's over. And I haven't had a great week this week either. So, it's been one of those rough weeks in retail, I guess. Too much to do and not enough people to do it, as always. So, but yes, Bren's kind of inspired me to do a video response, so maybe a series of videos on the crap that people do when they see somebody's deconverted. I got to find what I need is videos of people reacting to somebody deconverting and take a look at them because I need to do some research on that. So there's that. All right. Yeah. Everywhere. Go get a beer. uh, as always, she curtsies. See, that's the thing, Earl. Because you're a Southern girl, I always picture you in that nice, Gone with the Wind dress when you do that. So kind of style. So there's that. You're a dog blasphemer. Oh, thank you, Bren. I appreciate that. Yeah, I want to look at him because I think there's something there. It's a real good. It's a topic that I've been meaning to look at because it angers me still. Maybe anger is a horrible motivation, but it's like I get so tired of the excuses. Like, oh, that's that. So, but yeah, if that's the other apologist, then thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. So, because I want to look at him and his response to that guy myself and go, what the literal, um, lots of tension in the air. Yeah, but all the prices are coming down, Ronald. Didn't you hear that? Everything's coming back down. I just haven't seen it yet, apparently. Horse China. Okay, that's good news. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, but yeah, if you could curtsy in that dress, that's impressive. Those old Southern gals from that era. Oh my God, how did they live? How did they breathe? Especially in the hot weather. Holy crap! I have a strong suspicion that all of that was for the public eye, and there was a lot of other things going on behind closed doors in the privacy of homes. So, um, even back in the South when they were very, very proper, I think that's probably what happened. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, I remember that one. See, you could wear any of them in that movie. To be honest, I just picture that when you say the word curtsies. But yeah. Thank you, Fred. Yeah, that's kind of my point with this stuff is I just find a lot of its excuses not aimed at the person who is deconverting or announces they're deconverting. It's more of an excuse defense mechanism to keep that person in the faith and other people who listen to them in the faith. I very rarely find that a person actually addresses the person's concerns. And if they do, it's usually like, oh, they misinterpreted the passage or they don't really understand Christianity, or it's always a personal attack on them, not the actual issue. Okay. It's always, you got to go right to ad hominem. You got to go right to poisoning the well about that person. Whenever I see somebody like famous deconvert and then they give their reasons, right? And then the other people like, well, these aren't good reasons. And it's always veiled with this attack on the person, with this emotional keeping of the in there. So, it's more about keeping people that are still in the faith. And reality is a tough thing to avoid. Okay. It really does kick them in the butt. So, yeah, she had a good dress too. I still like dresses, women in dresses. I do. Um, my, I used to have a friend in high school that was that way all the time. Like she refused to come to school in jeans, and she was always like not like stuck up, but more of a I want to look nice all the time kind of dresses. And yeah, and catch fire. uh, we'll create a female praying mantis to mate with a male, bite his head off. And when hubs always have no answer. Um, yeah, I don't think that's a creation of God. It's certainly not a benevolent God. I think honestly, uh, yeah, it cranky elder God might have a better answer to that. That's the kind of God that would create that sort of situation. Is it purely performative? I don't either. I think they would be more comfortable, to be honest, in some ways. So, but yeah, I still admire a woman that can pull off a dress. I do. So, when your morality comes into mortality, it's more of a Pascal's wager thing. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I get older and I'm more convinced that there isn't a God the more I live. I guess I'm back to George Carlin again. The more you live, the longer you live and you look around, the more you realize things are fucked up. Okay, that there doesn't really seem to be somebody in charge of everything. So I had that when I was younger. When I was a kid, Pentecostal still had the rule that women had to wear dresses to church. So maybe that's where it comes from. Um, uh, you don't understand that either. Okay. It was a. I honestly remember. I think it was. It was like that's not what you do. It's not proper, kind of thing. So, mate genocide is also common among spiders. I don't know. Did I really need to know that? Oh, okay. See, I don't know. I think dumping the corset was actually a good move, but there you go. But a woman that can pull off a dress, I can definitely respect. My mom talks about this all the time. Every once in a while, when we talk about the good old days, that she wasn't allowed to wear pants to school in the 50s. So she and her sister were champions of the poodle skirt for a long time. So she used to wear she actually had hers for quite a while. She had her old poodle skirt that she used to wear in the 50s. So um, so that was her thing, and she had her own car. She drove to school and get out with her poodle skirt. That whole 50s imagery that you have, my mom lived that. So damaged lady parts. Okay. uh, well, I would now conclude, Bren, that religions are just large cults. The cultic mentality is in every religion. To me, cultic mentality is you believe and have faith in something that you have no proof for. Um, so I've always found that interesting too. When I was growing up, though, the big issue became slacks and jeans on girls. In the 80s and the late 70s and early 80s in particular, that was like the fight inside of my actual church I was going to, is should the girls start wearing jeans and slacks. And in the end, it just kind of changed. There was a bunch of people that fought about it, but it never really. Eventually, the women just started wearing slacks and jeans, and nobody did anything about it. So, because you don't want all that in something tight where you would entice the boys to immoral acts. By looking at their backsides and stuff. That doesn't leave too much to the imagination, gentlemen. you should really be advocating for your girlfriend to be wearing a dress. So, and I used to think about that and I go, doesn't that make some things easier? So, I don't know. It was always an interesting. There was that. It was about follow for past as if they were an atheist and they convert. They were never critical thinkers to begin with. Uh, yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know. From my perspective, Pascal's wager is so bad. And I think I've said this in a video is like it doesn't take into consideration all the possibilities because it's not really a coin flip. It's a roulette wheel with a lot of spaces. Okay, so and that's the problem. All right, it's a roulette wheel with a lot of spaces, and you better hope you bet on the right one. And at that point, it kind of breaks down for me because how many spaces are on this damn wheel? Okay, I mean, I think the odds get really, really low for any faith being true at that point. So, had to wear 2 pairs of pants. How the hell? Yeah, the uniform thing in the Catholic school. So there's that. Hey, Iron. Yeah, as a Protestant and having been around a few Catholic schools, I always thought that was a bonus for the Catholic boys, to be honest. Especially seeing some of you Catholic gals always like to play with the skirt length. So, so there was that. Okay, so all right, well there you go. Yeah, they're just more extreme than others. But every religion has cultic behavior. Um, all of them. It's like even the most liberal Christianity, you still have this cultic devotion to the idea of God, and it still affects your behavior. So the shoe. Yeah, they don't really work. Yeah, that was my thoughts about it. I'm like, I I don't know. Dresses have some real bad flaws when it comes to purity. I don't know. Yeah, I dressed in a suit and tie when I was a Pentecostal, and I dumped it all for a polo and slacks and a nice pair of shoes in my last church. So it's uncomfortable as hell, to be honest. And I sweat so badly because I'm so hypersensitive to heat that eventually I can't wear the suits anymore. Oh, underpants. Okay, there we go. Yeah, the old knickers thing. It's English, but it's not. Yeah, I've kind of people have yelled at me for saying it's a 50-50 shot, and I'm going to take the 50% that says there is no God. And they say that I'm inflating that a little bit. I'm like, no, the initial question is there's something supernatural God out there or not? And that's the first thing you consider. And I think there's a good 50% chance of no. No, there's not anything. So I'll bet there. If I'm wrong, I guess I'm wrong, but I think I'm playing the odds. So yeah, I noticed that in your video that you don't give any core distinction, and I would agree with that. I don't think there is any distinction in many ways. Well, yeah, I mean, I'd say the more obvious signs of a cult is they control your money in some way, like Jim Jones used to just grab everybody's social security check and throw it in a pile. Okay, tithing is a good monetary control system. They also want to control how you present yourself as a person, and that's where the dress codes come in, where they make you conform to a style of dress. And part of that is also making you conform as far as sexuality. So, they have to do that. So, Yeah, I think also with that, that's another cultic behavior that no matter who you are, if you become an outsider, you get pushed away. And they may not condone that per se, but it still happens, and that's a cultic mentality. So, yes, something good to a black t-shirt. Is that what you're saying? See, because everybody has this discussion about what I'm wearing below the waist, and I've even been accused of Donald ducking it and the whole bit. And it's like, because nobody ever sees the whole me, but um, in general, no. So, yes. That's why, like Dave Ramsey, some of his practical stuff works. Like getting out of debt and staying out of debt is not a bad idea, but that's a minimalist idea you can pick up outside of faith. Okay. Um, but some of the other stuff is like this cultic devotion to a certain way of handling your finances, like the 10% tithe he puts in there big time. And it's like, okay, so I'm still giving away money to an entity that doesn't do anything in reality. Okay. That's a waste of money. So you were the accuser. All right. Well, there you go. There you go. There you go. See, Ed, it's not true. It's not true. I'm not going to stand up and prove anything because I like to keep the mystery. So stockings and suspenders. I don't know those. I'm sorry, they look decently uncomfortable. Sorry, I'm more of a nudist at heart, so Earl's accusation is probably closer, would be closer to the truth, although it's not true. Oh, there's that. Oh, I'm bringing the hat back the moment I get enough super chats. There's going to be a special live stream on Saturday this week. So far, I don't have enough donations to do one tomorrow. Um, so uh, the hat thing is going to be kind of a reward for a good week financially for me. I hate to be that obvious about it, but it's like if I got to make streaming work, I got to make it work. And I got some things to talk about though about balancing it with video creation, and I got to figure out a way to do that. Because a little precursor of that chat on Saturday, which is more future of the channel things, because we're coming to the end of the month and I tend to do that. But it's like streams have been great. I think we build a lot of good cohesion as a community. You can see that in the chat. Most of the time, everybody's having fun until the theists show up. And so that's that. The problem is my views, my new subscribers, all that other stuff has flatlined. Like it hasn't moved. And if I want to build the channel, I got to get back to doing videos because videos are what do that. So I got to find a way to balance this out a little bit. So there's that. Yeah, summertime. If I'm not on here doing a broadcast or making a video and I'm home alone, yeah, I'm not wearing anything. It gets too damn hot. So there's that. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I'm working on that. See, that's the thing about the hat reveal. Every time I have a hat reveal, I buy a new hat because you guys pay for my new hat. That's really what the hat reveal stuff is like I get 5 more super chats and it pays for the next hat. But I got the like the St. Patrick's fedora and tried the fedora on, but it's a little too small. I got to get one that fits me. And what new emoji? Is there a new emoji? I thought I already changed that out. Or do I can just add, maybe I should just add all the variations of Fang's bunny and let them pick one they want. Yeah. I didn't? All right. I have to double check. I thought I added that. All right. Thanks, Alex. Welcome. Welcome, citizen, to the Rabyd Nation. So, you have to buy your citizenship here with membership. I'm like all other countries. I'm just more honest about it. Oh, the one with the crying carrot. Oh yeah, I've got to add that yet. I'll tell you what. I'll do that. Make sure that gets done by Saturday for the Saturday stream, so people can try it out. I forgot about that one. I'm like, is that an emoji? But as the channel grows and I get the capacity for more as I get more members and get the capacity for more emojis, that's where I think like the bunny eating a different vegetable to represent different religions might come in real handy for the emojis. So, so there's that. Yeah, I'll get that up. But yes. My sister-in-law pastor's Baptist, and he preached to me for being gay. She is very judgmental and hypocrite, and she never called her out on how she acts. Yeah, gosh, this is such a deconversion issue for me too, because every once in a while my family members will have this discussion, and I'm like, well, you don't do that either. It's like, but yeah, it's just, man, I don't know. I have a lot of problems with hypocrisy. Like the video that Bren did, there's a lot of hypocrisy in it too, and that's what makes me angry. Is like they wouldn't want to be treated that way if they were deconverting, but there they go. Oh man. Oh, I'm excited. I am very, very excited about this idea. It was such a brilliant idea, and you took to it so well. I am so excited to see. I've never been more excited in my life to see rabbits eat different vegetables representing religions in my entire life ever. Yeah, I imagine. Okay, you gotta understand. One of the things that I'm more sensitive to since I deconverted is hypocrisy. Um, I just I I don't know how to describe it. Is because once you get out, hypocrisy just becomes so much more obvious to you. I think it's like you're not living being a hypocrite anymore in a lot of ways. So you change the direction of that. So yes, I get it. I also, my compassionate anti-theist side has to shine here just a bit and remind you that it's quite possible you used to be that way before you deconverted. Okay, it's like you have to realize this has been kind of a part of my brand is like you have to put yourself in what you were like before. So, but yeah, and I get it, and it's that response to hypocrisy that a lot of people deconvert about. Did Jesus actually lie? Yes. He says straight up that the generation that he's looking at will not pass before he returns. It's a failed prophecy. He's a failed prophet. I picture that early Christianity was like an apocalyptic movement waiting for the end of the world in 40 years. Then it didn't happen. And then all of a sudden you see the Christians start to write. That's when a lot of gospels get written. That's when a lot of stuff gets written. I watched Paulogia's video and I was reminded of the fact that when I read Clement for my own studies, that there was some discussion about whether Clement was written in the first century to begin with, that it could very well have been late second. And so, Jesus's biggest lie is that he was going to return within 40 years, basically. And when it didn't happen, the church had to readjust. Okay. And when you view the New Testament that way, it starts to make a hell of a lot more sense. So, Uh, Christian view of the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Well, I can tell you that the whole godless communist thing was very much alive and well in the church. I would also say that Christians, it's a weird time to talk about because we're talking about like the era of Nixon, Ford, Jimmy Carter, and then Reagan. Okay. And all of those people, Democrat or Republican, appealed to Christianity and the evil of the Soviet Union because it contradicted Christian ideals. It's the whole why we have in God that we trust on the money, okay, because of the Red Scare, okay? Like it's so the Christian view was if you were a communist, you were also godless, and so therefore to be opposed. And they definitely took obvious political things to do that and get rid of that. So that did happen. Yeah, when he said the end is near, it wasn't. Yeah, you when you come out of it, this is what I'm trying to get across to everybody, and being patient with people that are still in the faith. You were like that. Okay, you came off that way. I don't like to think, I like to think of myself back there as like very open minded, but and to an extent I was because I was always new ideas, but I was still holding to a lot of Christian ideas like LGBTQ issues. Homosexuality was wrong, this was wrong, that was wrong, and still maintaining all that because that's what the Bible said. Okay, that still gives you a very closed-minded view of things, and yeah, you can come off as a big hypocrite that way in a lot of things. Yes, reality and Christian ideals. So yeah, Bren brings up a point. It really depends on the era. Like the 50s and 60s were the Red Scare thing. We kind of got over the Red Scare, but we still had this. I know when I was growing up, like no Christian I knew of had a good view of the Soviet Union. Okay, so there was never that uh, view that the Soviet Union was a good thing. So yeah, the confirmed writings of Paula, though Apologia's video kind of the one guy says I'm not really even sure about that. Yeah, he has a valid point. I mean, you could throw all of Paul's letters under the bus if you really wanted to. But even if you take the authentic writings of Paul, he's very apocalyptic. Like Jesus is going to come back in 50 years, minimum. Minimum. It's going to happen. Maximum. That's the length. When it doesn't happen, then you have all these pseudo writings of Paul afterwards. That kind of, like the pastoral epistles, establishing leadership in the church, taking a more long term way of looking at it. Because if you take Paul's earlier theology, why would you look at anything long term? Okay. He thought Jesus was going to come back in his lifetime. Jesus kind of indicated that he was going to come back in the lifetime of his apostles. He boldly says so. None of that happened. Okay. That's kind of what happened. Plus, there was a lot of religion that was still on the surface, too. Like the Russian Orthodox Church, I don't remember ever having to go out of business. They were never put out of business. Okay, um, so there's that. I don't. Uh, when I would look back at it, because I lived through the last part of the Cold War, so um, as a teenager, I remember debating, that, and a lot of songs reflected that too, and a lot of movies did too. We were always watching, like The Hunt for Red October, I think is considered the last official Cold War movie, because it takes place like right before the Soviet Union shifts completely, so or basically becomes dismantled. But yeah, there was always the discussion of religion in that, and it's like Christianity is very much alive and well, say in China today, and it's because if you make something illegal, there's always a need for stuff, and so you actually may make it more popular by making it illegal. So it's that aspect of it. Yeah, 99 red balloons. It was one of my we I remember my friend had that as their favorite song, the original version done by the European band, which escapes me at the moment. But yeah, that I remember listening to that song. Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne is a Cold War song too. If you listen to the lyrics, he's very much, heirs of the Cold War was what we become. You know, mentally numb because of it. It's like it was very much on our minds, and the Soviet Union was always the bad guys. Like they were always, and that got played a lot. And in Christianity, we were the people that believed in God and believed in the true God, and we weren't these godless communists. And it's something now that, as somebody deconverting and realizing that communism and atheism have nothing to do with each other directly. Okay, like they're two very different things. One's an economic system, the other one's belief in God or not. Those are two very different questions. It just it You realize that a lot of things in the church are very situational of what's going on in the world. Okay, the church survives because it's adaptable. Okay, it adapts emotionally, it adapts culturally and societally very, very well. All religions that survive and are big do this. Okay, they have an adaptability that allows them to keep going. This is why I did a video on the rise of presuppositionalism. It makes perfect sense to me, but it also indicates that we're winning because they've had to adapt to, well, I know I don't have any evidence for my faith, but I don't have to present any. Okay, that becomes the new thing. Okay, and for those of us deconverting, like, no, that doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. So yeah, it's spreading by house churches. There was several videos I watched about the church in China. Um, there is an official church that's allowed, but there's also this underground house church movement where people just get together. Depends on the artist. Like I disagree with some of the assessment of Christian music, like it's just all a copycat of other things. There were some very original Christian artists at times. Um, I'm thinking of like Daniel Amos, which later became Da. They had some pretty original, not necessarily music, but their lyrics were very cutting to Christianity, not just the world, but Christianity. So there was several other bands, like the alternative rock scene in Christianity seemed to be pretty unique. You have to, I could deep dive Christian contemporary music all day long because I was a big into it. But but yeah, yeah. So it's just I don't find it repetitive or boring. I mean, if you take that view, listen to some of the early Beatles songs and ask the same question. So I know I'm speaking heresy there about the Beatles, but it's like some of their later stuff seems to be more deep than some of their earlier stuff. The earlier stuff is all about getting popular and getting money, so which is fine. Yes, it's the mind virus. Yes, Putin has definitely taken a very different approach to the church. He's like, I want them as absolute allies, and so he acquiesces to a lot of what they want. It's a very different system. Mm. Oh, so there's been a change. See, because the last time I looked, there was an official church, but maybe they've gotten rid of it. That's possible. Okay. I don't know. It's interesting what's happening in China because there's a lot of supposed atheists in China, but I think it's an overblown number. Um, if somebody's pointing a gun at your head and saying deny your faith, a lot of people are probably going to say, "Yeah, I don't really believe in God." Okay, and I don't think that's the proper way to become an atheist. Okay, so yes, I know that. I'm very well of that. That's why I tell people like it wasn't truly godless or religionless. They always bring up Stalin, and I like to point out to them, Stalin let a lot of religious groups go because they supported him. So it really had to do with Stalin. It's really like, are you for me or against me? And if you're against me, I'm going to kill you. So it's a real bugaboo for us here in the West, here in the United States, because they always bring up Stalin as this godless person that persecuted the church. And I'm like, not completely, not really. So, oh, oh. So my sax is collecting dust in the basement now. You need to find a different reason to play, man. Um, I think that's the thing with the church. Like my mom, she goes to church to play the piano. She plays the piano for the church, and so that's her thing. And everybody like pats her on the back and buys her free coffee, and works on her piano for free, and that is a good thing. But it's like my mom, I think, knows that I don't believe anymore, but she still loves her son. So we have a good relationship still, but it's like, I've decided that's that. So, okay. So they still have official religions. Okay, good. Well, and the reason I say good is because the problem I have always had with so-called atheist countries is the atheist forced to be an atheist, or are they an atheist because of choice? So I have large doubts, very, very large doubts. So, Greenville College in Illinois. Yeah, they had a major in contemporary Christian music. Outstanding. But yeah, I used to be big into that. I had all the bands. But I would argue like probably 80% of the bands were definite copycats of other groups in secular world. But others, you had to say that they had their own sound and were very unique or were very talented in their own right, and they came up with their own stuff. So they didn't make the best decisions. No way. Yeah, I'm always leery when religions do that. Let's see. I watch Apologia. I try to catch most of the people on my level too. Like, if you're a YouTuber with 10K or less subscribers, there's a pretty good chance and you're above 1,000, there's a pretty good chance that I hit you once in a while. But as I do more content creation myself, I find I have less and less time. You have the same 24 hours you have, and you got to figure out how to use it every day. But Paula G, I usually hit his videos because he's usually got good scholarly guests and stuff like that. And he's always maintained a kind of he's interested in stuff I am. Let's see, Iron Raw. I watch him a lot, mostly for his science videos. I would probably spend a lot of time correcting his biblical study ones because they're different in there. All of that stuff. Just because I can't prove Odin's non-existent either. I can't prove that Zeus is non-existent either. That's not proof. That's just an assertion. So, yes, I kind of got forced to. They sent us after 9/11. They sent me a CD as a pastor, and I started listening to them. So, and I felt their music was pretty good, worship music. But now I realize it was very cultic. So, so there's that. Yeah, atheist gather, it's boring. Yeah, it's a precept. It's a presupposition. It's what I just said. Thank you for coming in and confirming it. That Christianity is so adaptable that suddenly presuppositionalist apologetics is considered good apologetics because it's crap. 20 years ago, your average apologist would have looked at a presupper and said, "You're full of crap." Now everybody's doing it. And it's like, no. Faith is a vice, and it's a useless thing. It's something that passes itself off as a virtue, but it's not. I don't need faith. I don't need it. It's something that's sold. it you're falling for a sales pitch. I speak as somebody who's worked in retail 15 years. It's a sales pitch. You need this faith thing. No, you don't. You know, why do I need faith? Why do I need to believe something that can't be proven, that has no value whatsoever? So, yeah, I need more magic candy too. Is there a good magic candy out there? Yeah, faith is a scam. Okay, sorry. Uh, I was a pastor for 20 years, a Christian for 40, and I can tell you from the pastor's point of view, whether a pastor realizes it or not, he's involved in a scam. Okay, he's selling something that he can't prove works, and that's a scam. So, uh, yes, I remember the Three Self Church. Yeah, they're not allowed to preach, but they're allowed to do Christian stuff. Yeah, it's a nice sugar pill. How so? How do I believe? I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in a God, so I don't believe in that. I suppose, in a sense, I have trust in the fidelity of my family, but that's not faith. That's based. I don't need proof. Do you have proof that Odin doesn't exist or Zeus doesn't exist or any other god that's proposed? Do you have proof that they don't exist, but you don't believe in them either? And I don't expect you that you would need proof either. See, this is your problem. I don't. I'm not the one making the claim. You're claiming that a God exists. Prove it. And you say you were an atheist, but I don't believe you. Okay, I've had this happen on my channel too many times now, where somebody claims to be an atheist and now they have proof of God, and then they go into presuppositional apologetics, which is like the worst form of apologetics ever. But no, I don't need proof to not believe in Odin or Zeus, and I don't need proof to not to believe in Jesus or Yahweh either. Okay, you're the one making the claim. Prove your claim. So, uh, yes, the obedience and submission part that plays well into almost every religion. See you later, Fred. You have a good one. I'm about to check out here in about 5 minutes myself too, because I got to get ready for Friday work. But yes, don't burden of proof me. Listen, you've presented your evidence for your God. I've considered this evidence for 40 years as a Christian. I was a pastor for 20 years considering the evidence for God, and I don't find it convincing. That's why I don't believe. I've considered the evidence that you have. I mean, you could end atheism by having proof that God exists. And if there was such proof that God exists, atheism wouldn't exist. But obviously, that proof doesn't exist, because otherwise, why would atheists still exist? Oh, wait, because we're denying him in our unrighteousness because Paul says so. Now, Paul was wrong. That's how I know the Bible's wrong. So I legit don't have any belief in God. So Paul was wrong. So it's probably the only positive part. They do the community thing really well. That's why they survive. Um, but I think you can have good communities over Harry Potter and Star Wars too. So, and you don't have to try to take over the world with those. So, I get exercise very faith based. I get what you're saying. I just, there's a difference between trust and faith to me. Okay. Faith is just this blind, I'm going to believe it because I want to. Um, I'm an agnostic atheist. So I always hold the door open for anybody who wants to give me their proof of God, and I'll gladly hear it. But don't sit there and tell me I have to have proof to not believe. You don't ask for proof of non-existence of Zeus or Odin. So how do you know that they don't exist? Okay, there's like 4,000 proposed gods that supposedly exist according to many human beings. You've dismissed 3,999 without evidence. Okay, you just don't find the evidence convincing. I've just gone one god further. Okay. Um, I'm sorry. It's not that which causes greater well-being, that which doesn't do harm or actually promotes better things. I don't need a God for that. Human beings define what is good all the time and what is bad. Okay, we do it all the time, and you don't have to put God in there to make those definitions. So, hey, Lyric. So, you don't understand agnosticism. Agnosticism is about knowing. Atheism is about belief. Those are two different things. Gnosticism is all about knowledge. Okay, I am an agnostic atheist. I am an atheist because I don't have any belief in God. If I corner an agnostic and ask, do you have an active belief in any God? And they say no, then I politely report to them that they are also an atheist. Those are two different questions. People get that wrong all the time. And what's wrong with that? See, I had this discussion yesterday because I think subjectivity is actually superior to objectivity. You don't have any proof that there's a God that gives commands to give an objective ethic. You have no proof that objective ethics exists. It's always subject to another human being. Those aren't my opinions. Okay, that's a lot of people's opinions. Human ethics is done. Yes, I agree, Earl. Not this shit again. We did this yesterday. Okay. All ethics and morals are subjective to the people that think about morals and ethics. And in order to have an objective ethic, it cannot be connected to a human mind. Okay, quit using the definition of touchy-feely for subjective and start using the one that moral philosophies actually use, which is the moral or ethics subject to some mind? If it's subject to the mind of God or the nature of God, then it's still subjective. You have subjective ethics too. So yes, exactly. So are yours. Your morals and ethics are also subjective to whatever God you believe in. It's not touchy-feely. It's you believe that a God gave commands, so therefore it's subject to that God. It makes it a subjective ethic. Divine command theory is still a subjective moral theory. It isn't objective. It doesn't have a morality that just sits in the room all by itself with no mind thinking about it. Okay. Once again, you have to prove your God exists in the first place. It doesn't matter. But my subjective ethics are better than the objective ethics of the Bible God, who still believes in slavery and wants abject submission and a sadomasochistic relationship with his people. So there's that. Yes, I'm feeling you so much right now. And I have to say this: if those are possible gods, then how do you know you're believing in the right one? You might want to answer some more questions for yourself. Okay. Yes, it's an appeal to authority. I don't have to offer anything. Okay. I've had that accusation made before, Earl, like, you don't offer me anything. You're right. I don't have to. Okay. I really don't have to offer you shit. Okay. I don't have to offer you anything. The only thing I really have to offer is intellectual honesty. So it doesn't leave me in the dark. It just leaves me without a belief in God. There's other things to enlighten my way. You make it all about belief in God being the only thing that enlightens us, and that's just not true. You're very narrow-minded in your thinking on that. Okay, atheism doesn't leave me in the dark. It just leaves me with no God to rely on. And I'm glad for that, because I got tired of relying on imaginary. There's plenty of alternatives to the creator. you need to get out more. So it doesn't have intention. Earl is absolutely right. There's no intention here. Okay, it's just we've assessed the evidence for all gods and find them wanting. They're poor evidence or bad evidence, so we just don't believe. There isn't an intention. Once again, and Earl points it out, prove your creator. Quit. If you disproved atheism, you're still left with 4,000 gods to choose from. Which one's real? Prove that real. Okay. Yes, it's more precept bullshit. It's like you pre-suppers still do the same game plan, and I still am going to hold out. I will never leave my atheism until you prove there's a God. Prove there's a God, and you would kill atheism in 5 seconds, but you can't. You openly admit you can't. So why should I believe in something that you can't even prove or admit you can't? Why should I believe in that? It's a deconversion live stream. I knew they would come eventually. I don't know, guys. Should I up the subscriber wait time? You have to be a subscriber for like 30 minutes before you can comment. Oh, they always come to this one. Always. I'm trying to have a decent conversation with people deconverting who need help, and the pre-suppers show up because they got nothing else to do, apparently. You can, oh, by the way, go ahead, challenge it. It really is kind of silly, but okay. Might be a good idea. Okay. I don't know. I only do that for this stream. Like, I only make you be a subscriber for this stream. And it's to get rid of the drive-by shit like that. But apparently some of them are patient enough to subscribe to the channel for 5 minutes and then comment. So, and then they feel persecuted about it. I'm like, no, dude, prove your point. Okay. All ethics is subjective. I'm sorry. I've gotten so tired of that conversation. Like, you give me a false dichotomy, like the guy yesterday, of it's either a grammatical thing or it's touchy-feely thing. And like, there's 2 other definitions of subjective, one of them involving moral philosophy that you're completely jumping over. It's like, dude, there's another definition. Quit giving me these false dichotomies and give me reality. Okay. But you don't want to do that. So I don't know. Well, once again, atheism isn't a worldview. It can't be. Okay. It doesn't have the capacity to be. It doesn't address a lot of worldview questions. Secularism is a better way to describe it. So, is they've had the same arguments for quite a while. Yeah, you know what? I'm considering it, Brent, because I want this stream in particular to be us folks that are. I'm not trying to create an echo chamber because I have my other streams. Okay, I have Rapid Fire where I literally open it up to this stuff, and it's usually the same bullshit. And I point out it's the same bullshit. Would you give me something different? But yeah, I'm think I'm going to have to lengthen the time that you have to be a subscriber before you can get in. So. Yeah. Yes. They're fashionably late, but they're unfashionably late. Too late. Yeah, I don't believe in your magic imaginary Scott. You haven't proven your God is the one that actually exists. Please do that first, and then we can talk. Because if you actually prove that God exists, you would end atheism. Yeah, you would end it in one fell swoop, but they can't do it, and they know they can't do it. So, yeah, they do that. They get triggered by that word because they don't like it that people look at what they believe and go, you know what, this is bullshit. Okay. And they walk away like I did. It's like I'm like, man, 90% of this is bullshit, but I'm trying to make it work because of all these emotional connections. This is why this channel, I spend a lot of time clearing up what atheism is. It's like, I don't believe in your God the same way I don't believe in a lot of other gods. I don't believe in any of them. Okay. Monotheism got us down to one God. And as Christopher Hitchens, we're getting closer to the true figure all the time, which is zero. Theists don't like the number zero. Okay. They just don't. One for a year. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I could do that. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. Some of my children's would probably disagree with you, but that's them. Um, yeah, and why you believe it, which is what really bothers me about this whole thing, cranky elder God, is it ultimately comes down to they don't want you to question your faith at all. And if they actually have to deal with people that are deconstructing, um, that would be a problem. Okay, it would be an absolute problem for them, and I think that's why they don't like to do it, and it creates tensions. But yeah, I don't have to, you know, put up with that kind of crap. So, and I'm sure here's the real thing that bothers me about the people today. I am fairly certain that it's probably somebody else's sixth account that they've gotten banned on. Okay, so they've created another account to go be a nuisance. Every time I click on these pre-suppy boys afterwards, it's like a brand new account. It's less than, a week old, and it's because they've gotten so many bad reports, they get banned. And I have to ask, as a former Christian, if I was still a Christian, how does that a good testimony for Christ? How does that work? So so there's that. All right, I got to run. We've been at this for an hour 20 at this point. So thanks everybody for stopping by. I think we got some of the deconversion issues stuff, and we dealt with a couple of apologists as well. So thanks everybody. I appreciate all of you. Um, I don't think we got enough to do a video reaction tomorrow as far as the goals, but I know it's the end of the month, but I'll take the extra day off and put it to use. So I got some video planning to work on. So I'll do that. Um, but Saturday, I'm going to have a special stream where I discuss the future of the relationship between live streaming and video creation for the channel. I got to come up with a plan, and I could use your help. So um, I have 3 usual streams, which are usually Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and then I give a bonus stream if I get enough super chats on Friday. So um, okay, well, that's fine, but you get timed out when you keep giving the same presuppositional bullshit that I've dealt with. Give me something new. Okay, and this is a Deconverters live stream where we're talking deconversion as deconverted people. And I have to ask, why do you feel the need to come here and vent? That's my issue. So there's that. Yes, some people have itchy trigger fingers. Earl's one of them. You're lucky Martin isn't here. Martin would have banned your ass, but he's not here right now. So, but yeah, if you come here, why are you here? Okay. There's tons of people here. You're talking to a whole bunch of people that left their faith for multiple different reasons. Okay, so when you come in here saying you got proof for God, and then you give the same shit I've heard 100 times this last year, that's not proof. Okay, that's not proof. Okay, you get timed out if you're just saying the same shit over and over again. Well, I think you should dump it. You'd be stronger without it. You don't need the props. Okay, so but that's me. Yeah, it's a no preaching zone especially for Deconversion Hangout. So there's that. But yeah, I got to run. So thank you everybody. Hit the like button. Yeah, you got to give the like button a scratch. As I pointed out yesterday, it's not really hard to hit the like button. The like button is fairly consensual most of the time. Easy is what I would call it. So do that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Do all the things that you do. Consider becoming a member. It really helps my work as I continue to normalize atheism and deconversion and work for that action. So thanks once again for stopping by. And as always, live your best life. Take all your time, your money, and opportunities because you only get one go around. And give them to yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do, because you don't want to waste your life on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, folks, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you next time.